Welcome back to Dynamic Character Productions. This is the recap for our second long game of Monte Carlo, episodes 5 and 6. And I have two great guests here with me today. Two of our OGs of DCP lore. One is the winner of our first mini of Yasawa Islands. It's Karen Coleman. Karen, how are you doing? How are you enjoying the season so far?
I'm enjoying it. I like how seriously all the players take the game because, I play in a lot of orgs and not all of them are as involved as this one was, which I enjoy. So
awesome. And also with us, the original two-time player. We got ourselves Carlo Gazzi. Carlo, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be there and be able to share some thoughts about what's going on. And like Karen said, I really like Exile Island and the Monte Carlo right now. Like, how could I not like Monte Carlo for obvious reasons? But I like where this is going, and it's going to be fun to talk about the swap week.
Absolutely. It was literally the swap week with both episodes, including some massive swaps, some massive moves were made. You know what? You just made me think, though, Carlo. We definitely missed out on making a Carlo idol. For it, someone should have asked if it was under the urn, and we could have said yes.
It really, when Ian and Morgan started the casting, I really, really wanted to get in just because of the team, but the timing was not exactly right as per work. And I play far less than Karen does. I played a little bit. I got the experience. I'm happy with it. And I play, I think, like 3 of my experience, or two were with you guys and 2 seasons. And this would have been enough just to try it out. I realize how much time consuming it is, and it becomes really addictive along the way, and you cannot miss everything. So it was a nice experience to play both mini and season, but it was just bad timing. Else, just for the name, I would have jump in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. And we always love having Carlo either in the game or in the comments section giving his takes. So we're happy to have you both here. Let's get into it. We're going to start with episode 5, might be some carnage. We're going to get through some of the beat points before the immunity challenge. So we see from Serpone, the main point of conflict here is Jonathan's pissed off. Jonathan, although voting correctly last round, was not brought in on the vote. So Victoria, McKenna, Kyle and Mike are all sort of figuring out, well, what should we do to try to create some damage control there? Because they all like Jonathan. For whatever reason, he was left out of those plans. And I know, from both of your experiences, it's all about being in the know. And when you're not in the know, that's when your paranoia could start running a little bit wild.
At least be aware of the blind side, especially if you are in the team and stuff, which kind of leads me to one of the main thing that I really enjoy about episode 5 is kind of the evolution of Victoria. I'm a big Victoria fan, looking for a brief instant in Exile Island up till now. She had a really close ally in Elijah, and she did not hesitate because she had no options to cut him loose because the vote was going there in order to survive. That shows a lot of... She's more on the quiet side like me, but that shows a lot of character evolution as far as her survivor experience. And I really, really despite the unfortunate, I really like the way she did it and why she did it. And she said it also online. So that was a really strong moment for me.
Absolutely. I love Victoria on this season. Spoiler alert, I was going to mention this throughout the episodes, but what's really fun about this season is seeing how Victoria and Connor have learned from their past mistakes, because these are the 2 parts of the game where Victoria and Connor go out in exile. And we see both of them in the tribal council that would have sent them home, and you see both of them survive and not even receive a vote. So I was just so proud in the moment for them. It was like a proud parent moment almost of seeing these players get their second chance and see them actually go, here's the things I needed to correct to get myself further in the game. Now you're playing with house money.
I think they both evolve, and that's really nice. Again, I'm very happy for Victoria. About Connor, I'm a little hesitating of having wasted his 50-50 chance, even if everybody were aware of it. I'm really glad also overall currently in this season that there doesn't seem to have lots of adventures, lots of immunity adults, only 50-50 coin, gambling style. That is perfect. But I think I will have hold on to it instead of just wasting it. Of course, now he knows he got lucky, he got another one, but I would have maybe like tried to hold on. So I'm questioning there, but apart that, yes, he did. He seems to have learned to his mistake and move on and applied what he learned along the way up till now. So that could get him far. I would be happy to see Connor and Victoria in the final 2 or final 3.
Oh yeah, that would be great. And then Karen, from your perspective, for both of these tribes, prior to the swap, like how were you sort of like seeing them as like a viewer? Like, did it seem very obvious? Like, here are the people that are at the bottom, here are the people at the top, and sort of like if you were like putting yourself in the mode of like I'm on one of these tribes, like which tribe would you have wanted to be on, and how do you think you would have been able to maneuver these groups? Because like on Ruken's side, you see it's very much like they have that Ruken strong type of mentality. Whereas Serpone, it seems like they're a little more ready to cut each other when they need to.
Well, considering the end of episode 5, yes. Basically, you got it right.
I think in games that are more involved and people are on video calls all the time, it's more dynamic and it's hard to tell and things do change fast. So like, with tribe swaps, like at first glance, it might be like, oh, okay, well, we're going to stick to our original tribe strong. If you have like a cast that's that involved in this game, there's time in between the challenges and the tribals. And a lot of games, the tribal is an hour after the challenge results. So in this instance, I think it's hard to tell because things can change very quickly. And it doesn't always make sense for your game to just stick with your original tribe. So
yeah, absolutely. And like we see it here, at least from the Serpone side, they didn't have an issue crossing that line prematurely. We'll see if it hurts them going into this merge where we see they are clearly, if you just go based off pure OG tribes, they are at an extreme minority going into this. And you can easily see Ruken just pagong them. We'll see what happens. But we first have to get to the first swap. I liked how Morgan and Ian decided to determine the swap. I love a good schoolyard pick, and I loved how they decided the captains was they had 13 cards up there. Everyone got a chance to pick a card, so there was still a chance in the air. Didn't matter how early or late you got picked, you could have landed as one of the captains. And the most dynamic thing we see there is Jonathan's one of the captains, and instead of picking an original Serpone with him, he causes the events of causing all Ruken to be on his side, on new Ruken. So it's him, Kiley, Andrew, Will, Connor, and Michael. And then on new Serpone, we got Parker, who picks Margaret, his number 1, but then it's Victoria, Kyle, McKenna, and Mike. And that was something I was like scared of at first when I was like, oh, what's going to happen if everyone just picks their original tribe? Then the swap was meaningless. So I was sort of happy seeing Jonathan sort of like make the bold decision. Like, I'm pissed off at my old group. I think I have a better shot, even if I go into this other group of unknowns.
Which can lead, like, I guess we'll talk a little bit long to Elijah's choice when he had the choice to come back. That did bite him. But you are correct there. Like, it reminds me of probably the only good thing that was in Thailand when they had the schoolyard pick, and it ended up the young versus the old. And it is what it is. Like, there was a little bit of blending. Like, Parker did really well in surviving when he was wrongly picked and stuff. And with Elijah, I'm still wondering what was the good question. Like you pointed out, Sephone is kind of more like flopping compared to the other one where it's more straightforward and more united.
Or at least so it seems. It seems
well,
they put up a great front of we are tribe strong. blah blah blah, you know, like all that
it's
stuff.
a facade.
But
If it's a facade, if something else, kudos to them. Like they're displaying it and they're not showing the weakness to the other tribe.
exactly,
Which is great.
they're talking amongst themselves. They're not showing it in front of the group, which is a smart choice. And I agree 100%.
And in the end, Elijah's choice, like, what do you do on a tribe that is showing less unity? Do you take the chance or not? He took the chance in the unity where he could have had a safe passage to the next round. And then the merge cannot be that far. Of course, we had another swap, but the merge cannot be that far, and then anything goes. So I'm still wondering, I'm not sure what I would have done instead of him. Like, I don't know all the vibes that he had for Siphon compared to the other thing, but that is a very, very tough call.
Yeah, and you know what? We could talk about that before we even get to the immunity, because that'll be easier to go through. So, Karen, I want to know from your spot, you're in the Elijah position. Like, you take over everything that's happened in the game. You were the one who just got essentially betrayed, forced to use an advantage. You're left out of the vote, and you're seeing the path here where you could go to the side that is vulnerable, but has a majority of the people that you have worked the majority of the game with. Even though they left you out of the vote, you have that majority. And then you could go to this other side that at least guarantees you a few days to try to create traction, but it's an uphill battle. You know it will be. So in the event that you lose the next run, you have a 50-50 shot of going home between you and Jonathan. Like, what path do you think you would have chosen and why?
I think, like, in this specific game, I would choose safety, because you do have those 3 days to figure things out and try to gain some traction. Especially if I had just been left out of a vote, then these people obviously have no interest in working with me long term, and I'm a disposable alliance member, which is what we saw happen. He was disposable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that was the thing. That was the thing that got me, because I was there in the background watching all this happen, and we're all texting in our prog group like, "Oh, he gets to pick. Oh, he's taking safety." Like, you guarantee you get to the next point. We know that he wants to get to merge, so guarantee that spot. Figure it out from there. You said you like working with Jonathan. You and Jonathan together could be a good duo to try to work something out within this route and find that fracture, because it was there. We see it in episode 6.
He still has Victoria also that he works well with. That would have been, like Karen pointed out, buy him 3 more days.
Right.
Work on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like if he does choose safety, that we still get the same result in episode 6.
It's possible. It really just all depends on how the 4 sumps all get split up and who goes in that vote. Because if Elijah doesn't go there, and it's just that group that lost, we see either Parker or Margaret go, and that does create more of a difference between what happens. Like, if Margaret goes, she's not doing the cup stacking in that 4x4, and she's very efficient at it, allows that group to get straight to the puzzle almost instantaneously. Or you lose Parker, who was a prime vote for that. So it's that butterfly effect that I love about Survivor.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's why I love these games.
But yeah, so let's get into the challenge. So we just got the tribes, and the immunity is pretty simple, very straightforward. It's memorization. What we normally see in like an individual challenge on Survivor, where we decided to do it in a group format where you get a list of cards, but like each person of that 3 would only have to remember their order. So if you were first, you remember the first card, the 4th card, the 7th card, so on and so forth. I love these challenges. I'm not good at them. I'm good at memorizing certain things, but for whatever reason, cards really are not mine.
I'm terrible at memorizing numbers.
I did like the feature. It was original. I've seen similar type of that challenge, but the way it was displayed by Ian and Morgan, it was the first time. I was really happy with it. That's something that I would have really loved to do as a challenge. Like, dexterity is not really my forte, but these type of memories, it's something that I would have enjoyed.
Yeah, it was interesting. And I also loved that it wasn't just a the first team always faced the first team of the other tribe. They were allowed to mix it up after the first go around. So we got to see essentially everybody at one point or another compete against each other, which was really fun to see. And this went to the wire, went all 5 rounds.
Correct.
Ultimately, Ruken stays Ruken, and Ruken 2.0 wins immunity. It's a theme of this pre-merge. If you're on Ruken, you're probably going to win.
But it did display that it was down to the wire, very nail-biting. It was an equal challenge. It was not one-sided. So it just proved that the challenge did work well. And to be able to blend the teams, like you said, like you can blend the better teams against if teams got weaker to get better chance in the tie-breaking round. So there's nothing wrong. Like this, always nice to see something that close instead of one side winning by a landslide.
Yeah, and then Carlo, from my experience watching you play, you're a pretty loyal player, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Which leads me maybe to do a parenthesis. There's one thing that I noticed by Andrew, that he was hesitating to have a ride or die very early.
Yeah.
And it's actually turned out to be like, don't be afraid to do that. Like, even if it's early. Of course, I didn't do that well in the minis, but I did fairly well in the first season that had to play with Karen. To be clear, Karen and I were on separate tribes. At the merge, we started to work together, and right at the merge, it became ride or die. And Karen managed to reach the end where she lost only by 1 vote, where I got booed out at 5th. Like, it was Fively in the end, was like, we made a call, and obviously it wasn't the right round for me. But the ride or die thing very early managed us to do. We had full control for a long while. We're making the shots, and it allowed Karen to reach the end and do stuff. So the point, in response to Andrew, like, never be afraid to have something that early, even if it stick. Yes, I'm very loyal. It's kind of a double-edged thing, but Karen and I are the prime example that it does work.
Well, but then you have someone like Jonathan, and Jonathan's just like, oh, the hell with loyalty. I'm gonna dish every single thing I can. I will lie. But the thing is, I love how he talks about it, because he's like, the best part of a lie is when there's so much truth interweaved with it that they will never be able to actually decipher what I'm exaggerating. Because I'm pissed at a certain few people. I'm pissed at Mike. I'm pissed at Kyle. I'm going to weave this web that shows Ruken that those are the 2 people that you guys need to get out first from my tribe. And here's why. I will dish all the dirty laundry in the world if it means I can survive a little further, because that gives me time to create that next move. So I sort of liked the boldness of Jonathan. He definitely benefits from winning, despite what we hear from Kiley and Andrew, that potentially, even if they had lost, maybe Jonathan doesn't go home. They were looking at Connor, and we will get more in depth into the reasons why, or at least my interpretation of why, as we get into episode 6. But I sort of enjoyed his strategy. I tend to be more of a loyal player when I play these games, but I'm also someone who can be self-interested. So it's like, I'll be loyal to you until there's a point in the game where I feel like that it's not being reciprocated, or I can only get further if I have to betray you. And I sort of feel like that's the role Jonathan finds himself in here.
Exactly the same situation as Victoria and Elijah in episode 5 in the end. Like, I think that Elijah could have become the ride or die of Victoria. Like, they were really being close to each other, and Victoria, like, cut him off in order to be able to survive, which reminds me of other stuff. I was talking to Lauren sometimes about these things, that she had to do that for the exact same reason as well. So that's also, again, a lot of character evolution, like, not to hint at my MVP, but I think I've said it a lot so far.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, essentially from the new Serpone 2.0, whatever you want to call it, it seems very clear Elijah's going to be the vote. They're just making sure that he didn't get this clue, which we know is out there. Connor gets it. It was a very well-designed clue where you had, I think it was like 12 bottles or 14 bottles, and our
that was really neat.
One of our prod members, Nick Knebel, he made this elaborate thing where giant sheet was all a bunch of clues that would help people eliminate certain bottles. That would be like, oh, if these are tall without a cap, cross it out. They're not good. They have a disadvantage. If these are open, these don't have disadvantages, but it could also have nothing. And then it would all lead, if you did it right, it would lead to you having 2 bottles that you could open. And I believe was one did have the advantage, which was the 50-50 coin. The other one either 100% had a disadvantage or it had nothing. I forget for sure which one it was.
But there was a way to trim down.
There was all the clues, all that writing was to help you, if you were able to read it right, was to help lead you to a point where you had a 50-50 shot to get a 50-50 coin. So I loved that it was always going to be a gamble. And we see Connor takes the gamble and essentially everyone else does not.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
So the reason I don't know if I would have been accepted, but the reason I didn't apply for that season was because I'm not a gambler. So, but I am loving seeing like how the theme is being incorporated in a lot of different ways. And that was an interesting one as well. So I thought, like, personally, I wouldn't have done it. But It is interesting that it also turned out to be a 50-50 coin.
Yeah, what's great about this season is I feel like gambling and Survivor go hand in hand, because maybe you don't go for the idol or the advantage or whatnot. Mm-hmm. You are risk averse. That's also a gamble because that's allowing someone else the opportunity to get it. But every single vote that you're doing, you're gambling your life in the game by ensuring that you have faith in enough people that a vote's going to go the way that you need it to go. So that's why I love the theme being gambling theme, because it really just pinpoints Survivor at its best. Mm-hmm. And sometimes Survivor's a cutthroat game, just like gambling's cutthroat. And that's what we see here. Elijah goes out in a 5-1-1 vote. What I found very nice was Parker, without telling anybody, froze a vote at Margaret because he knew Elijah was going to be voting him, because everyone else told him the decoy vote was Parker. No one knew if Elijah had the advantage or not. So he was like, in the event that Elijah does have it, I throw my vote at Margaret. Me and Margaret are safe from the wheel. Like, that was his full intention for why he puts Margaret's name down. That's the risk he's playing in that game. Doesn't even tell Margaret that he's doing that.
But that also shows as a veteran that he has the experience. Oh, okay, I don't want to get, so I'm gonna have a safety things if something's happened. That shows lots of wisdom that new players may or may not think about, but like veteran players are aware of it. So that was an excellent play on his end.
Yeah,
I like that move.
As far as like gambling and Survivor goes, like that's like totally a great point. Like even seasons that aren't themed around that, like the mini that I won of this franchise, I wouldn't have won if I didn't gamble on a wheel at final 6 to be 1 in 3 chance of going home, and a 66% chance of me or my ally going home. So like that was not even in my favor. The odds were not in my favor.
That's still nowadays one of the best moves that I saw, that you guys had all the chance in the world of going home and it turned out to be perfectly. And that's why ultimately in the end you got our votes, because of that move.
It's always interesting to see how all that stuff works, especially with the wheel in our games, especially after your first season, we switched to the game changer rule of the no revotes.
I love that move. No ties, straight to the vote. That's excellent when people are aware of it. That's a major improvement.
Absolutely, because it forces the gameplay. Some people think it bogs down and creates straightforward votes, but we're seeing here, like, these aren't, even though we're getting majority votes, there's weaving still involved here. There's a lot of interplay happening, a lot of thrown votes trying to cause a little chaos happening. So even with this, we still haven't seen rocks yet. We never know. We've always had rocks in every single season we've played, so maybe we'll see one eventually and see people truly gamble their lives in the game. But that moves us into episode 6, in great need of votes, quoted by Kyle. I loved that confessional from him.
That was a great,
So that's where we're hearing from Ruken, Andrew and Kiley talking about how if they had went to tribal, they would have preferred, if it was up to them, Jonathan to stay, because they like Jonathan more. They're able to vibe with him. They're more similar aged with each other as opposed to Connor. So like one of the things that's hurting Connor is he's still very young. So I think it's harder for him to connect more at the same level as someone like Jonathan can, because he's lived more life. He's had more experience that he can share. And in a long game, you're not always talking game, but you need to be able to have conversations just to get to know people, be friendly with people. And sometimes the age difference does play a big factor in that.
But I like the fact that overall, at very first, before the tribes were assigned, they had sometimes to all know each other a little bit. So if you make the most of it, then you create contacts, and that allows you, like when you further the game downwards, like that, to use this contacts and maybe not be specifically type related. Maybe that's why we see between Siphon that they were more unsure compared to the other tribe, and that leads to these kind of stuff. So yes, that's a very nice option. I really did like originally for them to give time in order to know each other and move along the way, which leads to these situations.
Yeah, Morgan and Ian designed these games very well. Like, they are 39-day seasons that we run for the long games, but they are able to still manage it in a way where they give these tribes enough time to, like, if you wanted to get to know someone and really build those bonds, they give you that time. It's up to the players themselves to put in that work. And we're seeing the people that are putting in the work, and the ones that aren't putting the work in have been going home. So it's just like a big lesson for those who applied for these games, not even for DCP, but games in general. Like, if you're going to apply, be ready to be social, be out there and put in the work, because if you don't put in the work, don't expect to win. Like, that's essentially what is going to happen.
You get the 39 days, like you get 39 days, and something that I really, really love, a fixed calendar. So you know when things happens, that gives you time to do whatever the time zone we had. The season that we played each other, we didn't have a fixed calendar. We managed to rule it out, but we were playing and in team in an alliance with somebody with Australia, somebody with England.
Right.
And we were managed to either talk early or talk late or talk during the day, but we were talking. So there's no reason with extended or a fixed period of time not to be able to get your social on. Even if you're like a little bit shy or not, like if you're too shy and use stuff like I am, but even there, I use like, you need to do something else you just get voted out, which reminds a little bit of what happened to Julia like early on. Like, it's unfortunate because she like had a busy first week, but that was enough to let an unfortunate first like early boot. That's usually what happens when people are not really active. The first one often gets, even if there are good players, they often gets the first boot because nobody knows about them.
Exactly. And yet you had people that were like literally begging to find an excuse to keep her instead of like an Elijah. So like, it just shows like the potential there. But I love the insight that you're bringing, Carlo. It's always fun. But we're now going into our next swap. They're like, oh, you know, we love swapping. We're going to do it again.
It was unexpected.
And just like in Exile, we swapped them at 12 into 3 tribes of 4. So we got New Serpone 3.0 of Jonathan, Andrew, Kiley, and Parker. Ruken 3.0 of Margaret, McKenna, Victoria, and Will. And then the new Poisson tribe of Mike, Michael, Connor, and Kyle. And it's the relay challenge. I loved this setup. So we had 4 stages. Each person was responsible for one of them. The first person had to stack 6 solo cups and hold those 6 solo cups for the duration of the next 2 stages, of which was throwing cards into 6 solo cups and using a rubber band to knock the top cup off and land a die that's on that top cup into the bottom cup. And then a slide puzzle. You always have to have a slide puzzle somewhere in a Survivor season.
You did say it's a great equalizer.
You could say it's a great equalizer.
You could. It turned out to be like maybe more of a landslide this time, but I'm wondering if Parker's internet would have worked properly, if it would have made a difference. Because by then it was a little bit too late.
Right.
But the challenge basis was really excellent. Yes, again.
I am of the opinion that if you're going to play a Survivor game, you need to take the 20, 30 minutes it takes to learn how to solve a slide puzzle. There's YouTube videos that teach you how to do it. Like, you should be doing that. And I'm still surprised at how many people still don't know how to do slide puzzles. But
yeah, a lot of us are in the same boat, Karen. Like Ian and I will, like, I almost always create the slide puzzles. And when I create them, I also test it myself. And I learned very early on, like probably when we were first making the original minis, how to solve them. Because that was something that wasn't actually in my wheelhouse, but then I learned. And it's like, once you have your methods, because there's different methods to do it, but there's certain methods that you can do that like almost instantly cuts down like 5 minutes off your time. Now you're only doing it in a couple minutes instead of 10 minutes, like you see some people do. But in here, once again, we have Ruken. Ruken wins because Ruken's the only one that gets to the damn puzzle. Connor kept falling from his cups. I truly believe it was just he had a lot of nervous energy because this is the exact round and the exact format that he went home in the season. So I'm sure he probably was having some PTSD there and was in his head.
Well, like Sandra's curse of day 16.
Right. Exactly. Just like the day 16 curse. It's the 4x4 curse of Connor. But he breaks it. He does break it here. But then you also see Parker and Kyle were having some difficulties with the cards, and McKenna was able to do that die task. I think like on her like first shot. Yeah, so it was just incredible to see how fast they went.
Kiley was very solid also on the cup thing against compared to Connor and stuff. She held up pretty long to help.
Yeah, she did. For sure. Like Kiley definitely held her own there. And great. The one person who's not going to be talked a lot on this episode because he was safe is Will, who was clearly supposed to be on the bottom of that old Ruken tribe. Even though people liked him and he was building more connections, the fact that he kept on winning. He kept on winning, kept being safe, not even being allowed to be an option, I think has helped his stock in the game tremendously moving forward.
Yes. Will reminds me of Australian Survivor Season 2, the new generation of the AK. AK was way too in your face, and then he managed to be laid back. That's what seems to happen.
That's a hell of a compliment to give someone. So I love it. I love the comparison.
I'm not saying that it's gonna stop, but maybe he learned like he was not doing things properly, whatever he was doing and stuff. He reached out to this stuff. Maybe it was not as much in your face as AK is, but he certainly learned to blend in the way and use what's available to him. He got lucky to be on the winning side all the time, so he managed to build things up.
Exactly.
And maybe when he will be in danger, maybe that will buy him some extra time and stuff with the relations that he had the chance to build.
Exactly, and he's getting to learn new relationships now with Victoria and McKenna. And you hear him say how he didn't want to turn on Ruken, but the key word was yet. He didn't want to turn on them yet. He doesn't forget that he was left out of that vote and blindsided. And he's like, if I can just get to the merge, I'll see what the layout is. If the layout works where I can take some shots of revenge, I will take it. So it's very interesting to see where we go as we potentially are getting close to a merge here.
What about Mike then? Mike is self-admitted. He wants to be the bad guy. He wants to be Johnny Fairley at this season and stuff.
I think his time will come. As Kiley said, she's not worried about him because everybody's going to want to go for him at some point. So which I think is a good point.
A good shield then.
Well, and she has purpose for throwing all this stuff out here because as we know from the beginning of the season, Mike and Kiley just played a game together. We didn't know it was that soon that they had played together. We knew that they did have history. So when we originally see that Jonathan and Connor and Parker are okay, so Mike's probably the person who has to go here. And everyone's cool. Kiley and Andrew go to a separate call, be like, that's not what we want. We want to take out Kyle. Kyle's more low key. Kyle's more of a low key threat as opposed to Mike, who's this loud person. We know what he's doing. We know it's bullshit. So we'll cut it out, but we don't need to cut it out yet. And for Kiley, that's music to her ears because she's like, I need Mike in this game. Like, that's a ally that I know 100% will have my back. And I will do whatever it takes to keep him in the game, even if it's at my own game's detriment. So I think that's an important note to have moving forward is if we see, does it end up being Mike being a detriment to Kiley's game or Kiley being a detriment to Mike's game? Like, does that close relationship end up biting them or does it carousel them to the top? It works out here for them. But it just starts this round of, is it going to be Mike? Is it going to be Kyle? Is it going to be Jonathan? Is it going to be Connor? Because like we see briefly, Kiley even mentioned like I was talking with Mike, then I talked with Parker. Like Mike and Kyle just saved Parker, so wouldn't Parker want to try to return the favor? We're willing to play ball if the thing fits, but I think ultimately the votes, they didn't have that fifth person, especially because Michael was busy all day and wasn't around, wasn't able to be talked to. I think if Michael was around, there's a potential we see this like new 5-person of Kiley, Mike, Kyle, Parker, and Michael maybe. And maybe that forces Andrew in as well. And then you take out Connor or Jonathan.
Yeah, Mike, using Mike as a shield as per is like, he is very outgoing, kind of makes sense. I really like also Michael, like he really did great in the mini. So I was happy to see him, what he can do in a season as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the issue that we are seeing is Andrew seems to be the one who's really pinpointing on like, it needs to be Kyle, not Mike. It needs to be Kyle. And what I think was hard
to be on board of that for that.
Yeah. Too. Well, because it's not Mike, but I think she would prefer it both of them because she knew Mike and Kyle were good with each other. So she's like, there too, Kyle will be good with me. But I think Andrew had this fixation, which I think was harder to show through the camera because I think it was a lot of texts that were showing it. He had an agenda, I feel, against the known DCP players. So he was focused on Connor because Connor has played before. He was focused on Kyle because he found out Kyle got 5th place in Lalumanu Beach. So he's like, that's a threat. Like, he got there before. We had to take him out now or he'll get there again. Well, he's targeting Victoria because Victoria has played a long game before. And then it's only a matter of time before because Sahara Dunes is airing the same time this is being filmed. So they know Michael's playing in that mini. And so I felt like there was a big target that was starting to be developed by Andrew on all these former DCP players, even though you have someone like Kiley who also has played a ton of games, just so happens to not have played in DCP.
Yeah, pre-existing connection or trying to make connections regardless about two players or like if players played a lot or not. I don't know, like before the game started, how much people didn't know. Like obviously I see some familiar faces, so I know, okay, maybe that connected. So it like the more orgs there are out there, the more difficult it is to have a blind cast. It's always a struggle. So I can understand for him that it was a strategy to vote those out because it was an easy target. Kind of reminds me of Jenna Lewis way of thinking in All-Stars, voting all the winners, voting all these things.
Exactly.
Kind of the same pattern. So he just pick something and stick with it. Like, will it work? We'll see.
Yeah, because like we've seen Andrew be a very present focus in this pre-merge phase. Like, he's definitely like, if you're gonna say Ruken, I feel like one of the first names you're thinking about is Andrew, because Andrew's just like so out in front of like, I want Ruken to be the one that wins. I want someone from Ruken to do well. I need to get rid of everyone from Sapone and anyone who has played DCP. I need them gone. Like, so that is very, once again, Carlo, bringing a very good throwback to a Jenna Lewis. Does he get the same success of a Jenna Lewis and get very deep and almost get to the end? Or does he get clipped? We'll have to see.
That may or may not work, but like that line of pattern with like Kiley is playing a low profile thing, but using Mike as maybe as an obvious shield because he is out there too. That can get that far as well. Like we've seen with in the recent Australian season between Mark and Jordy, like he was really out there until he gets voted out. Right. So who knows?
But so ultimately, we do see Kyle go here. I want to know from you guys: do you think the correct move was made? Because you have Kyle, who is low key, and does have his stretch for certain reasons. But you also have Mike, who's like in his confessionals saying, no matter what happens, I'm going to ensure I sow all these types of seeds among Ruken so that they start eating themselves alive. Like, I'm going to be the poison that ruins their game. So
it seems to work. To his credit, it seemed to have worked. So we cannot blame what he does. He chose to be the bad guy. He plays the bad guys, but he played it smartly.
Oh, yeah. So, Mike definitely plays smart. I'm saying from Ruken's perspective, was the right move made.
I think the right move here is either Jonathan or Mike because they're chaotic players. But the thing is, I'm not sure everybody realizes that. That's why I would love to see a little more of their one-on-ones with people because I'm unsure how they're presenting themselves to people because people seem to be believing them and not worried about them. Whereas as a viewer, I'm like, these guys need to go because like I don't want to play with them. Just because I don't like playing with chaotic players because they're hard to predict. And
we see
it's almost like it's like in different ways that pull into current Survivor. I could see like some of Omer in Jonathan, like that social threat where he's able to like just get people to buy into him, and then
which is so dangerous.
Yeah. Absolutely. Then you have Mike, who's just that wild card. And it's like, okay, you have the wild card there. Everyone knows he's the wild card. So is that really a danger? But it is because he is the wild card.
The thing is like players like that. Sorry, hold on.
It's okay.
Players like that aren't necessarily a threat to win, but they're a threat to ruin your game and prevent you from winning.
Yeah, so that's all great points, but we do ultimately see Kyle go. 6th person voted out, 12th place. Connor survives final 12 and has now, no matter what, has improved his placement from last season. So again, a big shout out to Victoria and Connor for getting past their bugaboos of Exile Island.
Still have a 50-50 coin too.
Yeah.
So
and no one knows.
Nobody knows about it. So
So all we know advantage wise is Connor has that. No one from the other tribe ever opened a bottle. So there's only that 150-50 coin in the game right now in terms of advantages.
Yeah. Now
I do want to say, sorry. I'm proud of Connor for learning from his mistake earlier in the season of just like blurting out his advantage. So it's good to see that he was like, okay, maybe don't do that this time. So like good for him on that.
Absolutely.
I'm very happy. Now I'm really curious to see where the game will go because it's 3 tribes. That kind of confused me a little bit at first because I was like, we've seen like splitting the tribes in splitting the group in 3, having a challenge, do the common vote out, but usually it's just team. It's not tribes, which is unusual. It's the first time I see this. So where will it go from there? Like the merge cannot be that far. So I would love for at least on Monday to see them still as a tribe like this and do the same synergy for at least another episode and maybe seeing a merge next Thursday or something.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say. It's hard to say because we don't know if it's a final 3 or a final 2. We are at 11 people. So if it's a final 3, it's possible we even merge next episode. If it's a final 2, we could see that extra round of them working as 3 tribes and then
I would love
merge.
to see that.
So we will have to see on Monday. So remember, everyone, Carlo just gave the great pitch to go and watch on Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. the next episodes. But before we can even go into those plugs, we have wrapped up episode 5. We have wrapped up episode 6. It is now time to talk about MVPs of the week of week 3 that encapsulates both episodes 5 and 6. And I will also announce last week the audience had voted And for week 2, the audience's MVP was Mike. So Mike got 2 MVP points last week from the audience and myself. But it's a new week. It's a new day. The audience, you guys get to vote again. Make sure you are staying active on Instagram. That's more where we'll collect our votes from when we put the polls out for you to answer. So go there and answer who you think the MVP of this week was. But for this week, I'm going to start with Karen. Karen, who was your MVP of these 2 episodes and why?
So it's hard to choose like one person for the 2 episodes because I feel we had very like different dynamics and like the tribe breakdowns. For the episode, I have 2 different people. So episode 5, I know Victoria didn't necessarily have control of everything that was going on, but I just really enjoyed her awareness of everything and having like backup plans. And I don't know, I was really feeling Victoria in episode 5. We didn't see as much of her in 6. But 6, I think, is like where you start to really see, because Kiley's been winning a lot. So we haven't seen as much of Kiley. But like the more I see of Kiley, the more I'm thinking she's like one of the best org players I've ever seen. Like she's incredibly good, like socially and strategically, while being able to control her threat level. She's like the triple threat that people don't even notice. And it's incredible. I love watching it.
I'm
going to go Kiley. Kiley.
Okay, you're going to go Kiley ultimately. Fantastic choice. Both were great options. But Kiley it is for Karen. King Carlo, who is your MVP of this week?
Well, if I have to split it like Karen did for episode 5 and episode 6, episode 5, there's no doubt for me. I'm a big fan of Victoria. I'm proud of the maturity of her game and her thought process and what she did, why she did, and how she did it. That spells a lot from somebody who didn't play a lot of orgs, but did show a great improvement from her first experience to her second experience. For episode 6, I agree that Kiley is a good choice, but we cannot forget what Connor went through, and he beat his curse. Just for that, he has to get it. There's a lot of learning and a little bit like Victoria, maturity from what he did to what he became and what he did now, and he broke his curse. So that's a lot psychologically speaking for a player, and that may give him the wings that he needs to soar and get further in the game. So I will go with Connor for episode 6.
But overall, if you had to only pick one, are you going Victoria? Are you going Connor?
I have to pick Victoria.
Hey, but you gave Connor his kudos, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
Victoria is Carlo's vote, a well-deserved one at that. I am going to give my MVP. I like to spread the wealth. I personally don't like doubling down, even though I think both are solid options. I was a big fan of Kiley being bold enough to like, no, I'm not going to let Mike go. I'm going to find a way where he stays because I know that benefits me, at least for these next few rounds.
True. Fair enough. Yeah.
But I am going to go with Jonathan as my MVP of this week. He does the bold decision of going into the unknown, picking Ruken. They do win immunity. You get the bias of they won immunity, so he didn't have to worry about what happens if they lose. We do find out that if they had lost, there was actually a very good chance that he wasn't going to be the person voted out. And I do have to use that information as part of this decision. He buries the people that I think he needed to bury. He doesn't throw all of them under the bus because there are still people that, like a Victoria, like a McKenna, that he still saw as options moving forward. And ultimately, he doesn't go in this vote when he could have easily been a person to be picked on and booted in this round that can be so chaotic, and they were in a clear minority. And he says himself, he's on an island. It's very easy in a chaotic vote like this to send the person on the island home. He doesn't go, so I'm giving Jonathan my MVP.
He
All
had
good
a big
options from us. Oh yeah,
I am interested to see where Jonathan goes, because like you could compare him to Omer, because in his confessionals he's very different from how he's being perceived from the players. So with both of them, I'm interested to see how it works out, because if a player like that does make it to the end, then they're like an amazing player. But if they don't, then it's just like, well, you had it coming.
Exactly.
So we'll see.
There's so much fun with this cast right now to see how they all end up. They all have stories that we're following. But when it comes to MVP count so far, as of our votes, in a 4-way tie for first place is Andrew, Jonathan, Victoria, and Mike with 2 MVPs. Then with 1 MVP, we have Connor, Kiley, and McKenna. So we are spreading the wealth pretty far on here. No one who has gone home has won an MVP yet. We'll see if that happens moving forward. But it's cool seeing MVPs by the guests are all getting picked that aren't actually getting boosted. So there's longevity there. And I can't wait to see who the audience decides will be the MVP. But that does wrap up our time here with the recap for episodes 5 and 6. Remember, all of our episodes air on Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Exit interviews shown on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. And of course, every recap, you'll find me here with 2 guests, hopefully 2 every week on Sundays at 8 p.m. Remember to also join our Facebook page and join our like us on Instagram and on Twitter and on our TikTok, where you'll get to see secret scenes, be involved in the audience vote, give questions for the exit interviews, and so much more. We keep you up to date. And if you liked what you're watching here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click that bell for all notifications so you can be aware when all of our new content drops. Again, thank you, Karen, our original queen of the minis, and Carlo, the OG 2-time player of DCP history. And I am your host, Alex Trias, and we'll see you all next time.